If you're new to fly fishing, one of the most confusing parts is trying to figure out what kind of rod you actually need. Do you need a single-handed rod, do you need a switch rod, or a spey rod? What length or line weight should you go for? Don't worry, in this video I'm going to try and cut through all of that in the simplest terms possible so you can pick the right rod for the kind of fishing you would like to do. Now, starting off with the single-handed fly rod. Now this is probably where most people will sort of begin fly fishing. They'll pick up a single-handed rod. It's quite accessible and it is quite easy to use and learn to cast on, especially for a beginner. Now there's a few things to think about here when it comes to these rods. First of all, the length. Single-handed rods range from about sort of 6 to 7 foot up until about 10 foot, 10 foot 6. So you know, it's about finding a kind of balance. I think for a beginner, somewhere around kind of 9 foot to 10 foot in that kind of range is the sort of sweet spot. And I think in terms of sort of line weights, anything kind of from 6, 7 or a 7, 8 is ideal for that. And that will allow you to sort of tackle or sort of target most species on a range of different waters, like small streams, rivers, burns, lakes and lochs as well. One thing to consider when you're thinking about a fly rod is the action. And when it comes to action, you get 3 kind of main types. You get fast action, medium action, and slow action. And that's all about how much the rod will bend through the blank. So a fast action is quite stiff, bends mainly at the tip. Medium bends through the kind of midsection of the rod, and a slow action will bend right down to the handle. Here you can see this is a cigar handle or a half well. I don't know if that's the right name, that's just what I've always called it. And this particular rod here is a 9 footer. These types of rods would be ideal for a water that looks like this. It would also be good as well on sort of lakes and lochs as well. 9 foot is perfect, but anything under 9 foot, a smaller water like this is perfect. Next up we have the full well single-handed fly rod, and this one you can see the handle is slightly different. It is slightly different shape and it has this little kind of butt down at the bottom of it if you wanted to have an additional hand on it. Now you usually will find this type of sort of handle set up on a larger rod with a heavier line rating, which allows you to target bigger species, maybe such as bigger sea trout, or maybe if you hooked a small salmon you might get away with it here. And also it would allow you, like I say, to access bigger waters and cast bigger lines and flies. I would usually use a rod like this for sort of sea trout on a river or maybe in an estuary. I would say this rod's probably a sort of medium to fast action. Just another wee side note, if you're thinking about targeting pike on the fly, now this video is mainly aimed at sort of trout and salmon, but if you're planning on targeting pike you would also use a single-handed rod, which would be definitely a fast action, probably a 10 to 11 weight and line rating on it, just because of the size of the flies that you'd be casting for pike and the power that pike have. And the larger single-handed rods, sort of from the 9 foot to 10 foot 6 kind of range, allow you to target larger waters such as rivers and large lakes and lochs as well. Next on the list we have switch rods. These are usually 10 to 12 feet long and you can cast them either one-handed or two-handed, hence the name switch. That extra length gives you a better line control, especially when mending a line in a current, and it allows you to reach a little bit further without needing a full space setup. In terms of line weight, switch rods usually start around a 6 weight and go up to an 8 or even a 9 weight. You can see the one in front of me here is an 8 weight, and it gives you options when you're out fishing. So you can go for a sort of lighter setup which is aimed more at sea trout or small salmon, or you can go at an 8 to 9 which is kind of mainly based around a salmon. So if you fish medium-sized rivers and want the versatility and longer casts with two hands but the option of single-handed, then a switch is a great choice. This rod is a 4-piece 11 foot, and I've just realised it's an 8 to 9, not just an 8. Here you can also see the sort of position that your hands would be in if you were casting this rod. The switch rod is ideal for larger rivers. And finally, the Spey rod. These rods are usually 12 to 15 foot long and designed purely for two-handed casting. Because they're so long, Spey rods let you make huge casts without needing much room behind you, perfect for big rivers with trees and cliffs along the banks. As for line weights, most Spey rods start around 10 or an 11 weight, sometimes you get them at 9, and they're generally made for casting large flies in a great distance. Spey rods take a lot of practice, but once you get the timing right, it can be an efficient, powerful and honestly quite a fun way to fish. You can see here as well, the eyes are different. They're more like the kind of eyes you would find on a spinning rod. Here I'm comparing them to your standard fly rod, and they have the sort of ceramic inserts just again to help the line flow through them when you're casting. As you can see, the blank is much thicker and the handle is much longer. That allows you to get a lot more power through the rod. And you can see here a reel on it and the sort of size it is in comparison to your sort of switch rod and your single-handed. It is much bigger. This particular rod is 14 foot, which is quite a large size. This particular rod is quite old. It's also really heavy. More modern rods are a bit lighter. Again, like the switch, I would stick this one for a river. Now I thought it might be worthwhile kind of comparing the respective reel sizes on these different rods. So we've got a 6 to 7 reel, a 7 to 8 and a sort of Spey switch reel. You can see the size of the reel, you can also see the line rating on them. I'm going to do a video next on different types of fly reel and how to set a fly reel up, what you need, what kind of backing line you need, etc. So that will be a future video, but I thought for the time being I would just let you see some footage of the reels on the rods just to give you a bit of context. Now in this shot I've got all four sort of styles that I've shown you here today together, just to give you an idea of kind of comparison on the size of the handles, and visually you can see the difference between them. And also just to kind of recap, you've got your Spey rods, which are aimed purely at salmon. They are sort of 12 to about 15 foot. And they're much heavier and they're designed for double-handed casting. You've got your switch rod, which is giving you the best of both worlds. You can fish it single-handed or you can fish it double-handed. Again, these would be generally aimed at sea trout and salmon. Then we've got the full well fly rod, which is aimed at trout, mostly sea trout on bigger waters. And then you've got the half well or cigar handle, which would be aimed at sort of brown trout and sea trout. If you made it this far, I hope this video was useful to you, particularly if you're new to fly fishing, and kind of gave you an idea of what you may or may not need. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I will get back to you. And just a wee reminder from what I said in my previous video, pick the rod that suits you best. If you're planning on targeting just trout, just get yourself a single-handed rod. You don't need to worry about a double-hander. If you're thinking you might want to do a wee bit of both, then maybe a switch might be a great place to start. There's always something for everyone, and again, just pick something that suits your budget. You can see here, you don't need all the bells and the whistles that is the modern technology. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks. Bye bye.